Oh man, Mets fans, this team's good. This team is really, really good. Doubleheader against the San Francisco Giants, where you just want to make sure you get a game. And in the first game of that doubleheader, Alex Cobb is dealing. The Mets are trailing 4-1. Starting to think that maybe the only way the Mets get a win is if Max Scherzer bails you out in the nightcap. Well, then the Mets have other plans. They rally back into that game. Francisco Lindor gets the big walk-off hit, and then Scherzer flirts with a no-no in game two. The Mets sweep an unbelievable team in this doubleheader and now have a chance to win one of the next two games to actually beat them in this four-game set. Going to be talking about an amazing day of baseball on this edition of Locked On Mets.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. If you want to find any of my work, follow me on Twitter at Finkelstein Ryan. You can also find some of my writing at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor and where I actually wrote up the podcast from yesterday talking about how Francisco Lindor is playing like the best shortstop in baseball. So very timely that Lindor would have this day-to-day where he makes huge contributions in both games in the day where I did a podcast about it or an article about him. So thank you, Lindor, for making me look very smart today, making me look smart all season long by predicting this breakout or this bounce back, because he has just been sensational for the New York Mets. Incredible that at the end of the game, he makes a diving stop to get an out, and he's getting MVP chance now. This is the same guy that was starting the thumbs down with the fans last year with his boy Javi Baez, that was getting boos in April. Now it's MVP chance. This team's different. And you look at how this doubleheader shook out, and early on, I didn't have any confidence the Mets were going to win game one. It was one of those games that we've seen play out a million times where it's just not going the Mets' way. You know, Tyler McGill's getting knocked around. It seems like every single ground ball's finding a hole. The Giants have just flipped the script entirely. Usually they're a patient team, and now they're ambushing McGill, and McGill can't figure it out. And he gives up a home run to Jock Peterson. And it's a 4-1 game, and Alex Cobb on the other end of it is dealing. The Giants just keep finding these starting pitchers that I guess aren't utilized properly in other places, and they just do something, and suddenly these guys are throwing harder and their breaking pitches have more bite to them, and they're like pitching like aces. You know, it was Gosman first. Now Alex Cobb is maybe the next in that wave of Giants pitchers, and he certainly looked like he was in command of that first game, to the point that I even tweeted out, at least you got Scherzer going game two to try to salvage a split. I did not have faith that the Mets were going to come back because the game was just trending in the wrong direction. But that might be the last time I doubt the Mets this year, because this is a different team. It's a different team in a lot of ways. I didn't even mention the first run scored this game, which ultimately makes all the difference in the world. This is why you signed Starling Marte, because he can just make stuff happen. It's like with Jose Reyes back in the day. Just having that speed on the bases can change a ball game. And it happens as Marte gets on first with a blue pit. It's not even like he hit that ball very hard. He's on first base, steals second. Bad throw by Joey Bart, gets into the outfield, cruises into third. Now you got a runner right there 90 feet away. All it takes is a pass ball. That puts pressure on the catcher. That puts pressure on the pitcher. And sometimes that pressure creates some diamonds. This one was a ball that just got away from Bart. Marte comes around to score. That one run makes all the difference, right? Because the Mets did have their one rally that got them back into this game, but that rally would have proven to be a little bit short had they not gotten that run early. But then you get the bottom of the fifth inning, Mets trailing 4-1. JD Davis singles. James McCann doubles off of third base, which might be the only way he'll get a double this year, hitting the bag, and it pops over the third baseman's glove. Had that ball bounced over the bag, probably still gets a hit, but likely or definitely not a double, because I'd imagine the third baseman would have at least knocked that ball down. There's 2 runners in scoring position for Jeff McNeil. He gets the Mets back in it with a double that scored both of them. Then after Starling Marte gets out, Francisco Lindor comes up and he doubles home Jeff McNeil. Tyler McGill had 3 rough innings, but he settled down, ends up getting the Mets through 6. That was a really good start for McGill, even though he gave up the runs. Sometimes it's even more encouraging when a young starter doesn't have it and figures it out. It's not like the Mets had to go and pull McGill after 3 innings, because that would have put them in a really bad spot for the rest of the day. So you're able to get that extra length out of McGill, which proves to be the difference in this game and maybe in the doubleheader altogether, because it just changes the way Buck was able to manage these 2 games, because he was able to get them through. And then they go to Joely Rodriguez in the 7th. He had a good outing. All right. He gets a lot of flack from fans so far, and rightfully so. But in this spot, he got the strikeout of the lefty he was brought into face, which I believe was Brandon Belt, but he also got a pair of righties out. So this notion that he can't get righties out at all, I think it's probably slightly overblown. The numbers don't look great. I understand those who still think that the trade shouldn't have happened. Miguel Castro should still be a Met, but even as bad as he was last year, which I believe was a 333 average against, that's still 67% of the time, right, that Joely Rodriguez is going to get those righties out. So he can still be a functional pitcher. As I alluded to in the past, in 2020, he did have good numbers against righties. So it is in there somewhere, maybe. And so we'll see if he can be a little bit better. The changeup was a real weapon today against righties. So we'll see if that can continue to bear some fruit for him moving forward. But Seth Lugo came on to pitch the 8th. Lugo looked great today. His curveball had really good bite to it. Gave up a soft single and then a bunt hit as well, but was able to pitch himself out of the jam. Got a big strikeout with 2 runners in scoring position to get out of that one. Edwin Diaz came on for the 9th. He walked the leadoff man, but then got a strikeout and a double play ball. A really good turn by Cano. Lindor left the throw a little bit short, but Pete cleaned it up, something that ended up happening again in the following inning as well. The Mets had their chance, though, in the 9th inning, and this was where there was many Mets fans on Twitter calling for Buck Showalter's job again, which, look, you've heard me say it. I am not criticizing Buck's decision-making in April. If it costs them a playoff game, if we get to that point in the latter stage of the season where the Mets are in a tight spot and he makes the wrong move, eventually I'm sure I will criticize Buck. But as this team's in first place, I'm not criticizing anything, even though the decision was questionable. So I will lay it out to you. In that 9th inning, you had Eduardo Escobar and Robinson Cano each draw walks. Louis Guillorme came in with his shaved face, and boy, I hate to see it. I know that Guillorme shaved once before. I believe it was in 2019 at the end of that season, and it was a little bit jarring. I don't think this is the first time we've seen a clean-shaven Guillorme, but that beard is magnificent, man. What are you doing? I was sad to see it go. I really was, especially as cold as it is out. I know he was saying he was waiting for it to warm up a bit, but he wanted to get a hit first. He did get a hit in the second game, so I guess he's justified in shaving. He also had an incredible bunt in that spot to move the runners over. That gives you this, golden opportunity, right? Second and third, 1 out. You just need a sac fly. And you got Brandon Nimmo on the bench, and you got Dom Smith on the bench, and Travis Jankowski hits. And that is why everyone was jumping down Buck's throat. And I understand it. Jankowski struck out. I know he's gotten off to a good start this season, but some of those hits have been drag bunts. And if he's not going to do that to bring in a run, I think there's other batters you'd rather have up that could have hit in a fly ball. But at the same time, if you would have gone to Dom first, well, Dom ends up striking out right after him in the spot of James McCann. So, really, what good would he have done in that spot? Same pitcher that he faced. I don't know if it makes a difference, but again, personally, not criticizing Buck Showalter for managerial decisions in April, even the questionable ones. In the 10th inning, Adam Ottavino walked the tightrope with that ghost runner, finds a way through it. The last play was crazy, an overturned call at first base. They originally ruled that Pete Alonso came off the bag as he had to try to stretch out to catch a bad throw from Lindor, but he kept his foot on the bag, and it was great to see Pete celebrate that moment. It's a fun baseball team, man. It really is. And those little moments are special. to see him make that play, all of the thoughts that are probably running through his head about the DH and being able to still play first base and contribute. It was good to see him contribute in a big spot with the glove. And then Francisco Lindor, who admittedly is not throwing the ball well, is certainly making up for it with the bat. And in the bottom of the 10th inning, you had Jeff McNeil as the leadoff batter. He hit a ground ball over to second to move the runner over. Starling Marte walked, and then Lindor came up in that huge spot, and he delivers the walk-off hit to incredible celebration by his teammates and the crowd. And that's the thing right now is this team just has good vibes. And Francisco Lindor, not only does he get the game-winning hit, he also had the game-tying hit earlier on in the game. And so I get that there's always that urge to nitpick and to talk about the bad throws and some of the things he's not doing well. But I look at the throws and I say, you know what? It's cold right now. They're playing in the 40s. When it warms up a bit, you're going to see an even better version of Lindor defensively. And last year, when he was battling through the cold months, he really struggled offensively. So to me, there's no room to criticize him right now because he's carrying this team. He has just done an unbelievable job. He's reached base safely in every single game this year. And in this day where I again wrote an article and did a podcast about him playing like the best shortstop in baseball, he delivered and once again played like the best shortstop in baseball and went 4 for 9 on the day and just had clutch hit after clutch hit after clutch hit, and even had that diving play in the ninth that helped the Mets secure the second victory, which we're going to talk about in just a minute because Max Scherzer was sensational in this game. Before we get to that, though, betonline.net is your number one source for all of your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and the start of the Major League Baseball season. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. So in game 2, the New York Mets offense got Max Scherzer some runs early against Logan Webb. They actually knocked Webb out in the 4th inning, which very hard to do. If you don't know who Logan Webb is, this is one of the best young starting pitchers in baseball. I believe they said he had won 24 straight decisions if you included the playoffs, or at least the Giants had won 24 of his last starts there. So this guy's really hard to beat, all right? And the Mets were able to get a rally started in the 3rd, and it was none other than Francisco Lindor once again delivering. He had the double that started the rally. Jeff McNeil flew out, so then there was 2 outs. There was a wild pitch that moved Lindor over to 3rd. Pete Alonso walked, and then Eduardo Escobar doubled down the first base line, and Pete Alonso came all the way around and scored. Honestly, it's really weird to say when there's a team that has Starling Marte and Travis Jankowski right now and Brandon Nimmo and Francisco Lindor, all of these great athletes who can fly. Yet the man I love watching run the most is Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso can scoot, man. Pete Alonso is faster than JD Davis. He's faster than Dominic Smith. He's faster than some of these other guys that you might think are more athletic, at least in my opinion, because when Pete gets ahead of steam and gets moving, first of all, he's actually a good base runner. He cuts the bases really well, and he comes around and scores on this play, dives home. Pete Alonso is just so much fun to watch play baseball. He doesn't do anything gracefully. That's why the polar bear name is so fitting. He's just this big tumbling guy who just is moving his body all over the place, but he makes stuff happen and he plays so damn hard. That's why you got to love watching him and seeing him score on that play. I don't think there was a Mets fan that wasn't, pumping their fist and fired up when he scored that run. And then Eduardo Escobar is able to score as Dom Smith gets a base hit. He had a 2-hit game in that game too. So it's really good to see the steady contributions once again up and down the roster. But the story of game 2 had to be Max Scherzer. Here he is pitching in front of that Mets crowd as a Met for the first time. And I cannot take that for granted, right? Because we've seen that start that he just had play out in a Nationals jersey against the Mets, where all 5 of his pitchers are working. He's dotting everything. Wherever the catcher was holding his glove, wherever Nito held that spot, that's where the ball was going. Just crisp, just perfectionist. Everything has a purpose. Every ball is thrown to set up the next strike. Every corner is dotted. He was just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And he carries a no through the first 5 innings, only needed 67 pitches. And then everyone's already starting to wonder, like, are they going to let Scherzer finish this? Is Scherzer going to get an opportunity to go out and finish this no hitter? And I'll tell you, I wasn't sure, but then when that sixth inning started to derail a bit, he strikes out the first two batters, but then walks two, and the pitch count's climbing. I really wanted him to get out of the game. I didn't want the Mets to be in a Johan Santana situation with Max Scherzer this early in the season, and I understand that Scherzer is the type of bulldog that I don't know if he would have let Buck Showalter take that ball out of his hands. So in a sense, I was almost happy when Darren Ruff deposited that single out into the outfield that scored a run, especially when he got out of the inning and you knew that the threat was neutralized, because I was just nervous about how the whole no-hitter thing would have unfolded. And he threw, 27 pitches in that inning. And so that was a really laborious sixth inning. And I was surprised that they sent him back out there for the seventh. I really was surprised. But at the same time, I also understood that this is the pitcher that you trust him knowing his body. And he wanted to get 3 more outs so that bullpen only had to get 6, because they use Ottavino, they used Edwin Diaz, they used Joely Rodriguez, they used Seth Lugo. They were short on arms out there. You don't want Trevor Williams pitching in a high leverage spot. And so if he didn't go out there, would Drew Smith had to give the Mets 2 innings? Would they have had to try to get 2 out of Trevor May? That didn't work last time he got hurt. So by getting that extra inning, the Mets were able to shorten the game and go just Drew Smith to Trevor May to close things out. I also want to mention I'm Nostradamus this year. I hate to be the one to pat myself on the back, and then I know no one actually believes when someone says that as they're in the process of patting themselves on the back or tooting their own horn. No one's going to think that I don't like doing that. Of course, I like to admit when I'm right. Who wouldn't? And I've had a lot that I've been right about this year. Don't get me wrong. I'm a little bit of a heater. And I tweeted out as Scherzer is going back out for the 7th. I'm like, he's going to finish this in less than 15 pitches. 8 pitches is all he needed. He also got a strikeout. And I will say that the reason I tweeted that out was because I've seen Scherzer do that exact same thing against the Mets. They send him back out. He's, another starts against the Mets. He might be at 115 pitches, right? And you're thinking, what are they doing? He's already past 100. We're done with Scherzer. If you're the opposing team, if you're a Giants fan watching, you're thinking, okay, well, at least we got the hit. So at least Scherzer will be out of this game. And they send him back out. I think there's something about that when I think common knowledge would assume that a pitcher would get pulled and they end up back out there, then it allows Scherzer to be more dominant in those types of innings. And that's why I predicted he would get back in the dugout in less than 15 pitches, because I knew he would go out and just attack those hitters, and they could do nothing with him. And so a couple guys put contact on the ball, put the ball in play. He gets some outs, and then he gets the big strikeout to close out his day, to get the double-digit punchies, to get the fans cheering. And just a great night of baseball. Great to see Max Scherzer really deliver in his first performance on that Citi Field mound in the blue and orange. And the Mets get the job done. And again, it's a different team this year. It's a different vibe. To be able to go from being on the verge of a definite loss in that first game to coming back, to tying it, to not coming through in that 9th inning of game 1 where it was just a golden opportunity for them to walk it off, to have the Giants threaten in that 10th, but to find a way to get out of that jam, and then to have the big hit that's delivered to get the walk-off, to get up early in a pitcher's duel in game 2, and to see the bullpen actually hold on for a Max Scherzer, for their ace. This team is really special. I want to talk about that a little bit more in just a minute. But first, I want to tell you, if you're celebrating the special women in your life, on BlueNile.com, you can easily navigate thousands of fine jewelry options at every price point. Whether she prefers a statement piece or everyday subtle elegance, BlueNile.com has fine jewelry options for every mom. Shop high-quality classic diamond earrings, elegant tennis bracelets, or gemstone pendant necklaces. This Mother's Day, give mom something she'll treasure forever with fine jewelry from BlueNile.com. And Locked On Mets listeners get $50 off their $500 purchase. This podcast is exclusively offering this only good through Mother's Day. So use our code locked on. That's code locked on. Plus, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. So shop stress free for Mother's Day this year. Find your forever peace by going to BlueNile.com today. Now, by sweeping this doubleheader, the Mets move to 9-3 on the season. They have a 4-game lead on the Braves. Let me check the score. The Braves are winning. They're winning 3-0, so maybe that'll go to 3.5. But the Dodgers could always come back. They got one more to play against the Dodgers before a weekend series against the Marlins. But you're looking at this division right now, and through a week and a half of play, here's this Mets team already creating this huge lead. If you look at the other divisions in baseball, NL Central, difference between the Cardinals and the Brewers right now, half a game. You look at the West, difference between the Dodgers and the Rockies, a game. Might be a half game if the Dodgers lose. You go out to the American League East. You have 3 teams tied for first place right now, and one in the Rays that are half game back. The AL Central, a 2-game lead the White Sox have. And then you have the West, where you have 4 teams separated by a game. So point being, the Mets right now have the most commanding lead of any team in any division in baseball, and they don't look like they're slowing down. And you forget that Jacob deGrom is not part of this team yet. Jacob deGrom has an MRI on Monday. He gets the green light after the MRI and starts throwing again. Maybe he is back in May. Maybe. You know, you Taiwan Walker still on the IL. The Mets just missed Brendan Nimmo and Mark Canha, and you didn't even notice. This team is deep. This team has great starting pitching, and this lineup is scoring runs and gelling, and they're playing for each other. I look at this Mets team right now, and I've continued to say ever since we started to actually watch them play baseball games that they look like the class of this division. They just are different this year. It's when you fall behind in a game. In the past, there's been Mets teams that just have no chance. If Alex Cobb is dealing the way Alex Cobb was dealing, they have no hope. And the Mets did catch a break by Alex Cobb pulling his groin in that start. If Alex Cobb didn't get hurt, I don't know if the Mets win that game. I really don't. He was looking great. But when you get that opportunity, the Mets are capitalizing on those opportunities. The Mets now have this team where a Max Scherzer can go out in that game and give you exactly what you need, and the team doesn't let him down on the back end. Last year, Jacob deGrom has the exact same starters as Scherzer, and you're really concerned that Drew Smith and Trevor May might blow it. And I just feel like there's been other fast starts. Look, this Mets team, we've seen it over the years. Didn't Mickey Callaway start like 10-4 or something crazy? I think he might have in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. They had some crazy start, and remember distinctly, I was at school and I called my dad up. I think I was at some play I had to go through for one of my journalism classes, and I remember standing outside this theater house and calling my dad and talking about what a genius this Mickey Callaway was. Look at these managerial decisions, the way he deployed whatever Jurice Familia to get 4 outs or something crazy. And obviously that didn't work out. But there's been times where the Mets will get off to a fast start and it feels like it's a little bit of smoke and mirrors. It feels like it's a little bit too good to be true. I don't get that vibe with this team. I don't get the impending doom around the corner. I don't see how this team ends up bad. And you got Eric Chavez as the hitting coach, and you see the way that he's interacting with the players, and it just seems like this lineup last year was overthinking everything, and now they're hitting. They're just not thinking. They're going into the box. That they have done, I'm sure, plenty of plenty of research on the pitchers they're facing, but they're taking that knowledge and they're not overutilizing it to the point where the wheels are spinning too much in the box. They have the information process, and then they're going in and they're executing, and they're just reacting to the pitches they're seeing. And guys are stepping up, and it's a different guy every single day. And that is the makings of a good team. When one day it's Pete Alonso with the 5 RBI game, another day it's Francisco Lindor dominating a doubleheader. It's Jeff McNeil getting a big double. It's Dominic Smith even contributing with this single. It's Robinson Cano turning a good double play or coming through bunting into the shift that one game early in the season. It's Travis Jankowski. So we see all these different contributing members of the Mets, and then you realize that this team's only going to get better. Not only do you have Jacob deGrom coming back and Taijuan Walker, but you also have these kids in the minor leagues and Francisco Alvarez and Brett Beatty who are tearing the cover off the ball and could be up this year. I don't know if I would necessarily bet on it, but the way that the Mets catchers are hitting, let's just say you get into August and that holds true, and you just want that last little thing to put you over the top. Would we be completely stunned if Alvarez comes up so you can get another bat in that lineup? I don't know. Would you be completely shocked if Brett Beatty continued to tear the cover off the ball and maybe they decided, you know what? This Cano Dom thing at DH hasn't worked. Let's put Eduardo Escobar as the DH and make Brett Beatty our third baseman. Or maybe even Mark Vientos finally shakes off the rust a little bit that he has at the start of his season in AAA. And he's right there for the taking to help improve this team. Not to mention you had Steve Cohen and Billy Epler who aren't going to sit by and just do nothing at the deadline. If this team has a chance to win the World Series, they might trade for a Mark Melancon and add another arm to that bullpen. So what we're watching right now is maybe even just version 1 of what this team could be. So all of those naysayers out there who want to continue to say, LOL Mets, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Something's going to happen. It's all going to fall apart. The fans who are just constantly pessimistic, and anytime the Mets are trailing, they're ready to give up on the season. What I want to tell all of you to do is actually watch what this team's doing, pay close attention. And if you're a fan, sit back and enjoy the ride, because I feel like this is going to be a season to remember. I'm not saying it's going to end in a World Series ring and a parade and all that, but at this point, I'd be pretty shocked if it didn't end in October, one way or the other. And honestly, I'd be pretty shocked if they didn't win this division. That is how good this team has looked at this stage of the season. And right now, you're sitting in the driver's seat in this series. You got 2 more games left. You got Carlos Carrasco going. Let's get the pitching probables one last time, make sure nothing has changed. It would be, if I'm not mistaken, it is supposed to be Carrasco and Rodon in the game 3, and that is it is Bassett, excuse me. Carlos Rodon and Chris Bassett going tomorrow or today as you're listening to this on Wednesday. And then Carrasco versus Anthony DeSclafani. So 2 more good pitching matchups. Left-hander on the mound for the Mets today, so J.D. Davis likely gets a start. We'll see what they can do there. You got to win one of these next 2 games to win the series, but again, coming into the series, I said all you have to do is get a split. So you're playing with house money, and you got the Diamondbacks over the weekend, a team that we know the Mets could absolutely sweep. It's a good day to be a Mets fan. Hopefully every day remains a good day to be a Mets fan this season. But as always, thank you for listening. Make sure you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Finkelstein Ryan. Follow the show at Locked On Mets. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen every day. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On MLB, hosted by Paul Francis Sullivan. Locked On MLB is where you want to go to learn about everything going on in Major League Baseball. You can follow Locked On MLB wherever you get podcasts.